Welcome to the Builders Happy Hour podcast, where building industry professionals come to learn the inside game of life and business success. I'm your host, Rick Wickizer, and I'm here to share with you guest insights and business principles that will help you clarify your purpose and enhance your profitability. On today's episode, we have my friend and personal coach, Scott Landis. Scott Landis is a business coach, entrepreneur, and founder of Business Freedom Advisors, where he helps founder-led and privately equity-backed companies create sustainable growth without sacrificing personal fulfillment, family, or freedom. With a background in psychology and decades of experience coaching leaders and entrepreneurs, Scott specializes in helping business owners align leadership, strategy, relationships, and personal purpose. His work focuses on reducing founder dependency, improving communication, building healthier organizations, and creating businesses that support life rather than consume it. Scott is known for blending practical business strategies with deep personal insight, helping clients navigate growth, succession planning, leadership challenges, and work-life integration. His coaching philosophy centers on the belief that true success is measured not just by revenue, but by freedom, alignment, and long-term impact. Scott is also a professional certified coach, PCC, by the International Coaching Federation, and he is a frequent podcast guest and interviewer and an advocate for not helping entrepreneurs building businesses that thrive without destroying the people who build them. So please join me with an engaging interview with Scott Landis. Today I have a personal friend of mine, a coach of mine, and a very successful and knowledgeable businessman who has a lot of things to share with us today. Part of my podcast is targeted to building industry professionals. I want to bring in people that have knowledge, wisdom, and expertise that they can pour into my audience. Right now, we have an audience of 0 because we're just now launching the podcast. But Scott had coached me really almost a year or so ago. Said, Rick, just get off your rear end, get the podcast done. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be messy. Be comfortable with messy. And so I started working on the website, got things going, and then I froze again. And so Scott and I had talked recently about why am I not moving forward? And it's just breaking the inertia. So Scott so kindly offered to be my first guest, which I think is a perfect person to be my first guest, because I think he has a lot of positive things to say and can pour into my audience. So Scott, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and your willingness to be on my very first inaugural podcast for the Builders Happy Hour.
Wow, what an honor. This is awesome. I'm so happy to help you break the inertia of just the mass sitting in one spot and not moving. Let's get it moving. Let's make a tug on that flywheel and get it going.
There you go. There you go. And you're in your bio, you focus a lot on entrepreneurship. You work with entrepreneurs like myself and like many of those that will watch this podcast. And it really seems to be a passion of yours to help entrepreneurs not allow their business consume them. Better said, a lot of business owners, they start a business, they're chasing freedom, they want freedom, they want the great life, and then many times they end up creating their own prison. Why does that happen to entrepreneurs?
Yeah, because business is hard. The grass always looks greener on the other side. We kind of know that. I'm sure we've all experienced that. It's like, oh, I'm going to get over there, and then we find out it's not so green over here either, right? But business is hard. So we maybe start as a great operator a great practitioner of whatever we're skilled at, and we're like, ah, I could do it better than the boss, or I could run this business a lot better than that guy. And so we get started in a business or whatever gets us started in a business. Maybe it's a family business we take over. Maybe for my sake, I never had any idea of business ownership or entrepreneurship. I grew up in a blue collar, white collar family. My mom was a teacher. My dad was, he ended up retiring as a supervisor for a federal housing company. Um, we didn't talk about entrepreneurship growing up, but I was in the corporate world. I got you know, a, a place that was downsizing, moving from one location to other, and I didn't want to move the location, so I took a severance package way back in 2001. And my insurance agent that I had met recently, I was like, mid young mid 20s, called me up and said, "Hey, I think you should try being an insurance agent." And that
Mm.
just sounded like, in my mind, I was just like, "Oh, that's another job, right? Another job. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good." I didn't realize I was getting into entrepreneurship, but I did have a severance package, and I did start a 7-year run as a insurance and financial services professional, and ended up selling that business 7 years later. But that's how I got into entrepreneurship. And it sounded like, a job is cool. You have stability. You've got a paycheck that comes every couple of weeks. Entrepreneurship's not like that. So it all relies on you. And that's what we don't realize. We get into this thing, and then there's so much complexity. If I'm a plumber or an HVAC guy or a builder, I I have skill set for that. But the skill set of running a business, building a business that can scale without creating, like you said, a prison for yourself, that's an entirely different skill set that is not the same thing as being a practitioner or operator in a particular set of skills in the industry, whatever that industry might
Hmm.
be.
Hmm.
It's a whole new thing. And we can talk a lot more about what those other things are, but that's the big idea.
Yeah, it seems like when you work for a corporation or a company, you have the company or the boss that's telling you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you're under their control. But when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss, but you have your business that's telling you what to do. If you want to remain solvent and you want to be successful, there's a lot of things that you have to do. And I find that many entrepreneurs actually work harder on their business than they would if they were working for somebody else.
100%. Yeah, when early stages in entrepreneurship, somebody said to me, yeah, as an entrepreneur, you get to work half time, like 12 hours a day. It's half time. 24 hours a day, you're working 12. And I used to think of that as like half time, part time,
Hmm.
it's a different world. You're not working part time anymore. You don't get freedom right off the bat. If you want to make a business take off, you're like all in. It's an all in bet.
Yeah.
And you are always thinking about it. You're always working on it in your head, if not, with your hands. You are always thinking about it. So there needs to be guardrails so that if you're like a family person, like you don't lose yourself in it.
Yeah. And in the building industry, like you said, you have a lot of tradesmen that they're tired of working for the boss. They branch out, they get their pickup truck, they hang out a shingle, and now I'm in business
Mhm.
without really understanding what it takes to launch a business. And in my client's analogy I love to use is the analogy of a rocket ship. I mean, to get that rocket ship off the platform, it takes a tremendous amount of energy and payload and fire and passion to get it going. And it takes off ever so slowly. And you said, man, is this going to take off? And you got to put
Mhm.
more and more and more time and energy into it. And before you know it, now you've broken gravity. Now you got momentum. And then maybe you can throttle back a little bit. But launching a
Mhm.
business takes so
Yeah.
much time and effort and energy.
Mhm. Yeah. Such a good point.
So, you're running a business and you're now starting, you got momentum, you're scaling a little bit. but you're frustrated, you're not happy, it's not what you expected. What are the signs that an entrepreneur is overly dependent upon his business, that his business is starting to consume him and take over his
Mhm.
life or her
Yeah,
life?
sure. Yeah, the signs or signals that maybe it's taking over more than ideal, let's say. What comes to mind for me is, um, obviously stress, feeling stressed. And I think different people manifest stress in different ways. Some people are like, what stress? And they just seem so calm and nothing bothers them. I would imagine a lot of your clientele could relate to that. But then, you have that, you know, which if you're in your 20s or 30s, you can go a long way with that. But if you get into your 40s or 50s, you go to the doctor and the doctor starts to do some measuring and they're like, what is going on with you? You're like all your levels are like out of whack. And you're like, I don't know, I don't feel stress. Like you might have some indicators in your health that maybe don't display in something where you would normally associate, oh, look at that person that's so stressed out. They're panicking. They're falling apart. They're like, they can't handle it. But look at me. I can handle anything. Look at me. I'm so like, I'm just handling it. But then your doctor might be able to show you some like levels in your blood pressure or other things, your cortisol levels, where they're like, are you doing any sleep? What do you do for a living? They're asking you all these questions. You're like, oh yeah, I run a business. What's the big deal? So I think about that stress as a spectrum. You might display a lot of stress or you may not, but make no mistake, if you're a business owner, you are under a great deal of stress. There's a great story metaphor out there of the gladiators in the arena. Being a business owner, I relate to this idea
Mm.
of most of the population that you see at the grocery store or on the freeway is just a spectator in life. They're just cruising through life. They're not in the middle of the arena taking the battle and getting bloodied up. That's a business owner. If you think about it, a business owner is like taking risks. They're doing everything the hard way. And there's rewards for that. But make no mistake, I don't care if you display it or not, you're under stress. And I think that's something that's really important for people to realize. I know I've had to realize that. Like I relate to the calm person. um, I got to be the calm person. I've got two daughters and a wife and a son, but I'm thinking about the female tendency to be like, emotional, and they're the ones that are stressed and all over the place on the emotions. I got to be the calm one. So, but at the end of the day, those stress um, indicators, whether you display it on your face or in your physicality or in your emotions, or it comes out later in a doctor report, a blood work, or checking all your levels. It's there. So what can we do about that? We should be mindful of that. It could be sleepless nights. It could be snapping at your people that you really care about, short temper, not having enough time for people. If you find yourself, your family is always doing stuff without you, that could be an indicator. So those are some that come to my mind. I know you've got some good ones. You can think of any other ones?
As far as stress from the oh the
I mean,
yeah.
just like the indicators that your business might be taking over.
Oh, yeah, just my overly focusing on it, worry. I tend
Mm,
to worry about things, and my business, I have my son involved, so I don't worry
mm,
necessarily about about my well-being, because I know I can fail and rebuild, but my son's involved, so I worry about him, and will the business continue to be viable for him.
mhm.
Um, yeah, it's yeah there everyone handles stress differently for sure, but I definitely relate to the gladiator analogy with your
Mhm.
shield and your sword, and you're doing battle, and some days are just bloody, and some
Mhm.
days, you're resting between battles.
Mhm.
But I'm how, and I know that the you talked about health, and health is usually one of the things that you realize first, is that stress is very caustic to the body, and usually
Mhm.
it's out of because your body's out of balance. And I know that you talk a lot about creating balance between your
Mhm.
personal and your business. In fact, you have a book, Balancing Act, that speaks to that. And so I guess um, probably similar to the previous question is, how do you know when your life is out of balance? But then how do you bring it back into balance? What are some strategies of bringing your life back into balance so
Mhm.
that you're not constantly on the battlefield slaying dragons?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's be real. I know that we would love to talk about the way we wish it were. I'm a fan of talking about the way it really is,
Mm.
because if you don't like deal with the truth, and the reality, whether that is favorable or not, then you can't really deal with it in an effective way. So even though the book is called Balancing Act, so my wife and I wrote the book Balancing Act a couple of years ago, and it's for primarily for the business owner who's raising a family, trying to have a great marriage, trying to raise good kids, and trying to grow an awesome business that creates freedom, wealth, and just all the things that being a successful business owner can bring without losing it all, right? The joke of the book is, and we say this in the opening, is there's no balance here. You are out of balance. We're not there. You are all in. I said that already, right? You are not balanced. There's no balance here. So we kind of shift the gear a little bit to say, okay, the only way to possibly pull it all off is to get rid of the idea of you're going to be balanced. But if you do have the hope of being integrated. So those three things are all pulling against each other: your marriage, your family, your business. If you have one or two of those, you know that each one of them is stressful and they pull against each other. If you got all three, like, you're pulling off a miracle if you can come out of that, uh, the era of bringing up your kids, getting through the tough stages of marriage, and getting a business that's soaring, and creating wealth. That's a miracle if you can do all that.
Yeah.
So we're a fan of integration, integrating everything. Like our family trips, if you look back over our history, our family trips a lot of times would have uh, uh, would be integrated with a work event as well. Our kids had a lot of great memories in all parts of the world. They maybe realize it, maybe they don't, but also work was happening during those times. Same with our marriage. We'd get marriage retreats at the same time as we were a part of an event. So integrating on the big things. But what I would say is so important. There's a lot of tips and tricks and systems that we spell out in our book and in our system. But coaching, having a coach, having a wise counsel around you, getting the right people. Because as a business owner, another thing about it is it's lonely. Sometimes you don't want to share with your spouse the most stressful financial situation that the business has ever gone through right now, honey. I don't want to share that with you because I don't want to freak you out, right? You need some place to get that expressed. You need some wise counsel to walk you through it. And I think that's where, I really see your profession, Rick, as, key, like having somebody listening to podcasts like this where you hear other people just to know you're not alone in it, to just know that, hey, there are other gladiators out there that are taking hits and not always feeling like they're just cruising along. You're not alone. So get surrounded with other people, get it into a CEO group or a business owner group of other people that are doing the same thing. Get some good coaching of somebody who understands where you're at and has been there, all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think, all successful people that I know have coaches, they have mentors, they have people speaking into them who have made mistakes. And so I believe success is duplicatable. So if you have people that are speaking into and say that I made this mistake, don't make it, you know, please don't make it yourself. Learn from
Hmm.
my wisdom. And so,
Hmm.
coaching and having someone that you can share with too, or just a thought partner where you can brainstorm
Hmm.
and just brainstorm ideas. You and I have done a lot of wonderful brainstorming in our coaching sessions, and it's been
Hmm.
invaluable. And so, and a lot of my clients that I coach, you never know what you're going to run into when you start a conversation, but they just organically move to where the conversation needs to be. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always appreciated our coaching sessions.
Yeah. And I would just say, being intentional. I'm a big believer in the principle of the path that, the path that you're on determines your destination. You can say I'm going north, but if your car is driving south, you're never going to get north, right? It's just never going to happen. You have to look and be intentional about the direction and the path that you're on. That's the principle of the path. I took that from Andy Stanley. I don't know if he invented it, but that's where I got it. That your direction determines your destination. Your
Mhm.
intention doesn't. Your direction, not your intention, determines your destination. So, in order to get where you want to go as a successful business owner, you do need to put the structures around coaching, groups, or other people that like a peer advisory group is so important. Good books, good educational materials that talk about how to build a business, not just necessarily be the best builder, but how to build a business that a construction or builder's business. That's an entirely different thing. There's great books out there that show you how to build a great business. Um, and stuff for your marriage and stuff for your kids. Like, I think getting into a good church is so important. There's so many different things that you can be intentional about. Journaling in the morning, morning routines, evening routines. Like, all of those are just like intentional structures that if you've got them on your path, that's going to get you to the destination you want to go. And if you don't have those things, then red flag, like, get on it.
Yeah, and tying to that thought, having an intention or destination, that's important. But you also have to have a roadmap. You need to know how to get there.
Yep.
Or if you're a builder, if you're going to build a building, you need to have a blueprint, or else what's going to end up is going to be unsound and not worth living in. So
Mm-hmm.
I think having a roadmap that you can put together with other mentors and other guides, and they can participate in that roadmap. Some people call it a business plan or a life plan, and that way, if you're off track, you can get back
Mm-hmm.
on track.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a good that last point. Like, to know if you're on or off track, just again, like, that is so important. Again, going back to the idea, like, so many people I meet and work with, the first thing that we do, and a lot of times I'm working with, entire teams, management teams, executive teams. The first thing we do is like call out the elephants in the room. Like, okay, I know you guys are acting like this isn't happening, or you're acting like this thing is happening, but the reality is, the truth is, what you're acting like is not what's really happening. We need to call out what's the real thing that's happening. What's the truth? Let's take a real look in the mirror and say, oh, I need to work on some stuff here. Like, the reality is, in my mind, I might look like, like I go to the gym all the time, but the mirror tells me, no, you don't. You might do a little stretching here and there, but you definitely don't have the muscles that you wish you had, right? The truth is, the mirror doesn't lie if you get real with it. Um, the same thing with your business, the same thing with your daily routines. Like, what are the things that are really happening? Those are the indicators of success. And you're on or off track, the roadmap. Like, you got to know that. If you don't have the roadmap and you're not measuring against it, then you're just kind of going by a wish and a prayer.
Mhm. And Scott, you have a couple of roadmaps or frameworks that you teach, the trimetric framework. and you also have the alignment operating system. Could you speak to those frameworks and how you use them in your coaching and in your work?
Yeah, so that comes out of along with the balancing act book. I mean, it's about the type of client that I work with. I tend to work with founders of businesses anywhere, a million to 10 million. They're typically found family owned, family oriented, purpose oriented founders. So they tend to think of in things of like, I've got a higher calling. It's not just about the bottom line. They are about, I'm doing this because of my family. I'm doing this to create a legacy. So they're measuring more than just business health. So the trimetric idea is we have to look at business health against and balanced against life quality. So if you have life quality over here that's looking really, really strong, but your business health is suffering, the health of your business is suffering, you're going to feel that on both sides. The life quality cannot stay high if the business health is low, and vice versa. If your business health is low, that's going to affect your life quality. So they go together. And then the third element of the trimetric is executive performance, which goes into leadership, management, and contrary to what usually people assume, leadership and management aren't the same thing. So we break that down.
Mhm.
Executive performance is about the strategic intelligence of your business as well as the executive discipline of the business, or the ability to carry out the function of leadership and management. So the quality of your executive performance is the quality of your business health and life quality, right? You've got to have all three. And I realized that by working with this type of founder, this type of business owner who's trying to pull off that miracle of doing all these things well, you have to have something that's measuring all those elements. And within the three things: business health, executive performance, and life quality, we measure 7 different elements in each one. So altogether in the trimetric, we're measuring 21 different things. And so we're very diagnostic forward. It's kind of like if you go to the doctor and then they just start doing surgery on you because you came in with a headache, they just start opening up and doing surgery. Like, that's malpractice, right? You really want, when you go to a doctor, if you really go to a medical professional, you want them to do all the tests. At least I do. I want them to say, okay, do the full body scan. I want the entire blood work, diagnose everything before you start. If you feel like you need to cut me open, like, let's have all of those conversations. And I'd rather find, if there's a missing element somewhere in one of those measurements in the diagnostic, then maybe we fill in the gap. Maybe it's a gut health thing. Same thing with your business health, your executive performance, and your life quality. What are the things that are creating the symptoms? What are the root causes that are creating the symptoms that you're experiencing that are maybe feeling out of balance?
Mhm.
So that's the trimetric.
Mhm.
That the alignment operating system is a function of, again, that purpose oriented, family oriented, legacy oriented entrepreneur, founder, business owner who wants to have a business that supports a purpose. So I learned this the hard way. I mentioned earlier my origin story. I started in insurance and financial services. Then I got into real estate investing, and I had the American dream, like everything you could possibly think of when you think of American dream. That was what I had, and I lost it all. And I mentioned I had an entrepreneurial journey. Started in 01, and it kind of ended in 2009 with the real estate
Yeah.
crash. So I learned that just having goals, business goals, life goals, just having goals isn't enough. Because I learned how to the science of goals. Goal achievement is a science. You set the goal, you build that roadmap we were talking about, and you just execute. Like that. That's easy. The art of fulfillment, and I learned this from listening to Tony Robbins. The art of fulfillment is an entirely different thing. So the alignment operating system is just a practical way to walk out what are your daily habits and routines that are going to lead to the weekly discipline of execution that leads to the quarterly goal achievement that's all aligned with a core value and purpose alignment. So we got to unpack the foundation of that, because your daily habits and routines, as important as those are, ask the book Atomic Habits. James Clear, Atomic Habits is really great, or Tiny Habits. There's a couple of habit oriented principles out there. As important as daily habits and routines are, if it's out of alignment with who you are, and I would even say what God created in you, that's the best way to understand what that ultimate life purpose is. If you don't have everything aligned to that, eventually, what Tony Robbins' idea of having that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. But having success that makes you feel 100% fulfilled, you must have that alignment operating system in place. Everything aligned to that purpose and that calling on your life. That's where even when in the midst of storms, even in the midst of having the battle in the middle of the arena, feel like you're getting beat up, even in the midst of that, you feel like, okay, I'm on purpose here, like this is okay, we're going to get through this because I know I'm aligned to that purpose. And I don't want to get too preachy, but I'll say one more thing
Okay.
from Romans 8:28, which is, if you make sure your calling is sure and called by God, if it's aligned with God, then he'll even use your mistakes, even the battles that you lose, he'll use that for your good ultimately. So that's kind of what that alignment operating system is all about.
Yeah, and it speaks to Simon Sinek's work. Start with why. What
Mhm.
is your why? And when I talk with business owners, is it why are you building this? What fulfillment are you going to receive from this business endeavor? And I've heard so many stories, I know you have too, of people who have been very successful, whether it's in business or in theatrics. They reach these dizzying heights and they're miserable because they thought that what brought them success would make them happy, but that's not what brings them joy and happiness. It's something bigger. And I know you and I worked for a while in the biblical entrepreneurship and talked about, what's the why of business? Well, it's more than just lining our pockets. It's about supporting and edifying the workers that we work with and our customers and our vendors. It's pouring out a blessing to all the people that we are privileged to touch. And I think a lot of business owners don't quite get that. Their why is very shallow, and they build what they thought would make them happy, and they're unhappy. So,
Yeah, and that's the ultimate signal that you may be out of alignment, and maybe do some work here. Get a hold of Rick and find out, okay, I'm feeling out of alignment. What do I do? That feeling of maybe having some success, maybe your bank account's full and you still feel unfulfilled. Maybe your business is going well, but your marriage is still out of whack, or your kids don't want to spend time with you. Like those are all, like those are things that business owners are faced with often. And again, if you're feeling that, you're not alone. Like, want to let you know, like, God, we get it, right? But that is indicators that there's something you could do about it. And as a business owner, that you can take the reins and you can own it and you can do something about it. If you're a victim, right, you can't do anything about it. But if you understand that you've got the power to do something about it, and maybe you just haven't been exposed to the idea that, oh, okay, there's an alignment operating system, or maybe it's a biblical entrepreneurship program, or something like that. Things that Rick, you're very well versed in. Like, uh, if it's about if these indicators of feeling unfulfilled in the midst of what others might see as success, those are clues that maybe you can do something about it. And that's where we're going back, we are talking about before. Get into a peer group, an advisory group, get a coach, get a mentor. Like those things can help you out.
mhm. So we kind of looping back to our first question and tying into your analogy of you have the diagnose, and then the prescription is these systems that you talk about and that you provide. What are there any specific or I'm trying to think of the how to phrase this, but I'd say what are the top three symptoms that you would experience as an entrepreneur that would clue you to say, okay, I need to go in and get my business, my life, my balance diagnosed?
Mhm.
What are those key symptoms?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind for me is because I've had this conversation with a lot of business owners, a lot of founders of businesses, a lot of family business owners, um, and this is where they tend to, find me, right? They're in the place where you just kind of alluded to. And here's something that I often find, and I'll ask something along the lines of, well, okay, those symptoms, whatever they are, stress, feeling unfulfilled, even if there's success, or ultimately, I just feel like I'm banging my head against this ceiling. I can see it. I can see where I want to go, but for some reason, I just can't break through. I feel like I'm stuck at this level, and I'm trying to get to that next level, but for whatever reason, I keep jumping for it. I keep striving for it, and I just don't get there. I might get there a little bit, but then I end up back down. And I love to ask this question. It's a great question if you're listening to Ponder. How long have you felt like you've been in this, whatever that is? Whatever, if you think about what is my biggest pain point right now? What is my biggest challenge? What is my biggest frustration in business or life? And then find out, again, don't fake yourself out. Don't say the way you wish it were. Get real with yourself. How long has this been going on? And and a lot of times I'll just say, tell me about a year ago. Where were you a year ago? Um, and if you do some digging, you find out, it sounds like it's pretty much the same a year ago as it is today. And then what about a couple of years ago? And the farther back you go, the worse that's going to feel. But even if it's just been like, I've kind of been stuck in this place for at least the last 12 months. And that's the biggest indicator. Like if you want to think about where you're going to be a year from now, the best indicator of where you're going to be a year from now is if you are in the same place today as you were a year ago, right? So
Mhm.
what makes you think? This is the big question to ponder. I'm not saying this to like upset you. I'm just saying it to like, get you to take a big, good look in the mirror and talk about the truth and the reality of the situation. What makes you think that a year from now, or 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, what makes you think it's going to be any different if you keep doing the same things? In other words, if you don't do something very bold, if you don't make a big decision, if you don't actually do something about it, like if you're listening to this right now, how about now? You know, let's do something now. If you can't do it immediately because you're in the middle of work and you're listening and the earbuds, at least write it down, but take action. Bold action today is the only way something's going to be different a year from now than it was last year. So again, this isn't for everybody. This is for the person who says, yeah, I've kind of been in this place for over a year, and it's been actually years. Like my relationship's still not where I want it to be, or my relationship with my kids is still not where I want it to be, or the cash flow is still not where I want it to be, or my business is still at the level that it's been. What's going to change? And then if you really want to make it stick, visualize yourself in the same place, because your filter wants to say, oh, it's going to be okay, just keep doing what you're doing, you'll get there eventually. It's going to be okay, don't worry about it, Scott. Tomorrow's another day, just keep doing what you're doing, you'll get there eventually, just stick it out. But actually, if you keep saying that a year from now, and you nothing's changed, and let's go 5 years, 10 years, go out as far as you can imagine. If you are still the same place in your bank account, if you're still the same place in your environment, if you're still the same place in the relationships that matter to you most, if you're still the same place in your health 5 years from now or 10 years from now, just let that sink in. How does that feel? Are you going to be okay with that? Or does that scare the crap out of you? And I kind of hope it does. I hope it kind of scares the crap out of you, or it breaks your heart. Because I know that if you feel that right now, that the pain of that, because behavior change is all about we're pain avoiders. We're pleasure seekers, but we're more pain avoiders.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta feel the pain of the long-term pain at a higher level than the short-term pain, because it's too easy to just keep doing what you're doing. So if all of a sudden to take the bold action, the thing that you kind of know you should do, or you kind of know is the right thing to do, but you're not doing it, whatever that thing is, if you did that thing, if you went all in with boldness, like if you knew that you couldn't fail, what's the thing that you know you need to do to make it to that level and get unstuck finally? The pain of that is going to be hard. It's a hard thing. It's always a hard thing. It's, if it wasn't hard, you would have already done it. So what is the hard thing that you're avoiding that needs to be done now or in the very near future? The plan that you need to attack, make it happen, and that the difficulty of that or the pain of that needs to feel less than the pain of staying the same. So feel that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if nothing changes, how heartbroken, how disappointed, how pissed off are you about that? Feel that so that it feels much worse than the pain of doing the bold action. And that's exactly what we do in the coaching business, right, Rick? We walk through you with that. So don't do that alone. Work with somebody who can help you say, okay, now you feel it. Now you're ready to take action. Let's plan it. And I alluded to this in the trimetric. The executive performance is about strategic intelligence along with execution discipline. If you get those two things going, then you cannot have a big difference in all of the trimetric in your business health and your life quality. So that was kind of a big one, Rick, but hopefully I didn't go too long there.
No, no, those are great and wise words, Scott. I appreciate that. And I'd like to kind of kind of wrap up our conversation on that. But first, I want to allow people to find you. Where can people find you to work with you to take your trimetric quiz, your assessments that would help people come to the right conclusion, the right direction in their life?
Yeah, so I do have the trimetric quiz at trimetricquiz.com. If you want to get that full picture of where you're at in life quality, business health, and executive performance. Most people aren't ready to take that though. It's a kind of a robust quiz. I do it for free. If you're serious, you're ready to take that bold action, go to trimetricquiz.com. But let's give you a baby step. The baby step is on our website, businessfreedomadvisors.com/score, the word score. You can get a quick and easy less than 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, quick test, diagnostic test that gives you a business health score, a simple business health score. And it's going to help you say, take that first look in the mirror. And you can do that very quick. You get the results instantaneously. And then from there, if you want to talk about it, you can schedule on our calendar right there, and we'll go over it with you. And then that can lead into a further business health diagnostic or the robust trimetric quiz. But that's a simple way to get started. businessfreedomadvisors.com/score.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Scott, I sure appreciate you pouring your heart into this audience. I know that you have a heart to give and to serve, and I know that all that you do is around that, and that I feel that that's your purpose, is to really serve people and help them provide that balance or use air quotes balance, because you mentioned it's not necessarily possible, but maybe my vernacular, become a better plate spinner. Keep those plates spinning and not falling to the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say the same thing back to you, Rick, that I've experienced your wisdom. I experienced your coaching. I've recommended people work with you. And so if somebody's listening and they're captivated at all by what we've been talking about, I really want to encourage them to reach out to you and work with you as well. I know you've got the solutions we've been talking about.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate your friendship and your work in my life.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you for tuning into the Builders Happy Hour podcast. Until next time, this is Rick Wickizer wishing you purposeful and profitable endeavors.